Call the meeting order. Thank you. Relatively lightish agenda, fingers crossed. See how this goes. But we're starting.
You jinxed it.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
there you have it. Starting with a conversation with CVRPC and about the Marshfield Gully Stabilization Project. So come on up.
Famous last word.
Yeah.
Got me to blame it, when the meeting goes south.
No, you can't. Infrastructure projects are always good. So it sounds like I'm not as familiar with this particular project, but is this part? It doesn't matter. I'll let you do it.
I'll do my song without dance and then be happy to answer any questions that you have here. So thanks for making time on the agenda. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Brian Boyd, Senior Planner and Program Manager at the Southern Vermont Regional Planning Commission. So this project originated about a year and a half ago, and there were actually two pieces here. One is to look at replacing the culvert on Tegan's property. And the other, if you're looking at the layout here, is the stabilization of a gully that has formed off the west side of Marshfield Road. So the millipede looking thing on the sort of top left of the diagram gives you an idea of where that is. So the design work for this project was funded through Department of Environmental Conservation's Formula Grant Award for the Winooski River Basin. Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission is the clean water service provider for the Winooski, and so we get about $1 million per year from the Department of Environmental Conservation to work on phosphorus reduction projects. So there's money to support the design and implementation of projects that reduce or minimize phosphorus runoff. And then we have additional funding available to provide ongoing operations and maintenance support for implemented projects. And last but certainly not least, there is not a match requirement for the town, so it typically makes these projects pretty attractive. The project location, as I noted, is just west of Tegan's property along Marshfield Road.
For those of us who don't know where Tegan's
Oh, sorry.
is. I'm sorry.
170 Marshfield Road, so if you turn onto Marshfield Road for Route 14, the big sweeping curve.
Yeah, you know, we did the guardrail and or turned around when they got halfway up that hill and realized it was too icy and they turned around in the nearest driveway. So my driveway doesn't use.
Right on the edge of right on the outside of the corner, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you, yeah.
Yeah, and so the gully is just before that, just to the west of.
Thank you.
So that gully really forms as the outflow to an existing culvert. The dimensions of the gully are large and growing. It's about 60 feet long, 12 feet wide, about 6 feet deep on average. And I'll note that we're not proposing a replacement of the existing culvert. We're only going to be stabilizing the culvert outflow so that we can reduce erosion and stabilize the gully over the long term. And what that will look like would be a graduated stone plunge pool. So basically some solid material underneath the outflow, and then a gabbion wall with a rectangular weir, essentially move the water through that stabilized gully over the material that's placed in there. So I'm talking to you tonight because if you're looking at the schematic, you'll see that at least a portion of the project does take place in the road right of way. This is the 60% design, by the way, that I shared with you. The 100% design for this project will be completed by the end of the month. But in a recent conversation with Kari, email exchange actually with Kari, he noted that there is going to be surfacing or some other type of work on Marshfield Road, and want to make sure that you know, you're all aware of this opportunity And if you decide to support the project and we move forward, then that'll make it easier for me to work with Kari to make sure that there's not any conflict between the two projects, and ideally that we would get the gully stabilization project completed before the road construction actually works. Again, I don't see any work on the road surface proper, but there will definitely be at least the gabion and the plunge pool, portion of the plunge pool will be situated inside the road right away. So if you choose to support the project, the next step for me would be to write a funding proposal to our Basin Water Quality Council to support the implementation of the project, and then, of course, continued collaboration
Can I
with
do a
Kari.
sound check? I'm not hearing anything.
No?
Are you hearing me?
Yes,
Yeah,
We can hear you.
we are hearing you, yeah.
Oh, you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear anyone there.
you can hear us now, right?
Are you all on mute?
No.
Right. He's talking pretty loud too.
There we go. Okay, thank you. sir. I'm in now.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No problems.
Yeah, so next
Okay.
steps would be for me to pursue funding, the next round of funding for implementation. A decision on that would be, assuming I submit my funding proposal in February, would be available in early March, and we'd be able to proceed with implementation at that point. So that looks like would be, we already have a design engineer that we're working with from Watershed Consulting. They've probably done numerous other projects in town, either for the town or with various watershed organizations, et cetera. And then we would hire a construction crew to actually implement the gully stabilization piece. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have.
What would be the construction access for that project? Would that be like off of Marshfield Road, or would you be?
Yeah,
coming in?
that's the plan. So, and thanks for asking that question, because that may necessitate the removal of the guardrail on a temporary basis to be able to get the access down into there. It's pretty steep in there for folks that haven't looked at that. And speaking with the construction engineer, they did a similar project, not in Calais, but I think it was in Georgia, last summer. Had a similar style setup where it was real steep in terms of the access, and the construction crew that they hired out to do that just made it work, essentially pushing everything in, getting smaller equipment down in there to move everything around to its hopefully final resting place, not to be disturbed by future storms.
So would, I'd assume you guys would be project managing and then, working with the property owners that would be, have you already, dealt with the outreach for the existing?
We've been working with Egan and Mark on the project, because the other portion of the diagram that you see relates to the culvert replacement for their driveway. So the culvert under their driveway is currently undersized. Those two flows of water run roughly parallel after the water runs under the driveway, and I can't remember if they eventually join or if they just both drain into the same stream below.
Oh, I see. The millipede is on Tegan's property as well.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Never mind. That makes more sense.
Will this require a maintenance agreement on like 10-year maintenance agreement?
It will, but I would expect that the maintenance that you do on the culvert is probably more complicated than the maintenance that you might expect in the stabilized portion. But we do have funding through the program to provide support for operations and maintenance of these projects.
Yeah.
And like you and I have talked about the East Calais Post Office project as well. We'll revisit that this summer to hopefully get that project in the program as well, sort of a separate topic, but
Yeah.
same pot of money, same basic idea that you and I have discussed in the time party.
And it looks like that's a 24-inch culvert right now that goes underneath the road.
Correct.
And did you guys do like a hydrological study to design or right size the gully work on the outflow side relative to a particular culvert diameter?
Yes,
Like, are we in need of having to upgrade the size of that culvert? Or
the engineer was confident in the size of the existing culvert and
Okay.
that it was able to accommodate. I mean, it's a pretty small drainage that flows
Mhm.
into that. I think it's about 3/10 of an acre. That flows into the culvert itself, and it's less an issue with the culvert being undersized and more about the fact that the culvert itself is perched.
Yeah.
And so the water
Driving water.
splashes down and when it comes,
Yeah.
when a lot of water comes through, it's relatively erosive.
Mm.
And then the gully itself will just continue to migrate
Yeah.
down. You know, so where this comes in terms of my program, we're funded to reduce phosphorus in the watershed, as I mentioned before, and so if we can stabilize the gully, minimize or eliminate erosion potential from the gully, we should then also realize a reduced phosphorus load going into the adjacent water body.
Sounds good. So assuming that, do you need I guess like a formal letter of support from us, or just kind of a thumbs up for pursuing the funding? Is that?
Yeah, I'm happy either way. I mean, a letter of
Is one of them
support
more
might work
favorable
for-
than others?
for somebody else, but so,
I
you know.
think you drafted the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, a motion in support of that would suffice, and I can use the meeting minutes as the official letter of support, or I could prepare a letter that you could sign following a motion tonight. It doesn't matter either way.
Okay.
Can I just ask quickly, is the gully erosion and creeping going to be threatening the road stability, or is it going the other direction?
I think it could be a combination of both, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I mean, what they're seeing now is that it's moving downhill, but there's no reason to think that it couldn't also migrate back and potentially undercut the road, or at least undercut the culvert itself.
Can you also, sorry, say again the why we're talking about 60% concept as opposed to 100%?
So the 100% design will be finished at the end of this month. I'm sharing the 60% design with you tonight because I am hoping to submit a funding request in February instead of waiting until March. Mostly just to keep the timeline moving.
Okay.
We'll certainly share the 100% design with you all if you have a change of heart, because something changes between 60% and 100%. That's completely legitimate. We won't have spent any of the future monies at that point. So if something does pop up where you're like, whoa, I don't know about that, you know, I can come back, we can talk about it. If you decide at that point you'd rather not move forward, we can follow that route as well.
Okay, thank you.
So short answer, it's mostly just a matter of timing.
Great.
As far as timeline goes, so the request for funding is February, potential distribution of funding in March, I think you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yep.
Completion of project probably midsummer at the earliest, maybe depending on contractor.
Yeah, depending on contractor availability, yeah.
So that pushes us into the new.
Pushes, yeah,
year.
pushes it in a new fiscal year. I was thinking more along the lines of the paving project. And
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Pushing the paving project into it.
We were planning for next year.
We were, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But it is, I mean, do you have a rough estimate of how long it would take for the construction of this?
I wouldn't think more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Smaller.
that big of I mean, it's a big issue, but it's not that big of a
Right.
project,
Yeah.
per se. I think the The hardest part is really gonna be, making sure the access is safe. And after
Yeah.
that, gravity is gonna do a lot of the work, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Did you have, you said you're pushing, or that you plan on the road work in your next fiscal year? Is there a-
Yeah, I mean, we'll, as early as possible, but we haven't got the grant, we haven't gone out to bid or anything.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you had your own timeline that you were.
No, we
working
don't.
off of, But you know, you and I can continue to coordinate on that, Kari, for sure.
Given it's 2 weeks, I think we can make it.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, are there any other questions, or John, do you have any other input or feedback? Moral support?
John's my hired muscle,
Yeah.
Right.
with no compensation, by the way.
Uncompensated hired. Great. Well, is there anybody who has any concern, anybody on the select-board that has any concerns or see any reason we wouldn't want to at least articulate our support for the project? No?
No further questions for me.
Do we need that in the form of a motion,
Yeah.
ideally? Yeah, okay. Well, then, if that were the case, then I would, I guess, recommend a motion articulating the support for CVRPC to continue the pursuit of funding and design of the Marshfield Road implementation.
Not designed.
Okay, design or implementation and funding and management of the Marshfield Road project. And I guess I would recommend that if you want to prepare a letter, we would then ratify that in kind at the next meeting. That makes sense. So we can clean up that language maybe a little bit.
Right, can we clarify, do you want a letter or you just want the minutes? What's better?
I mean, either way, I'm happy to provide a prepared letter that you sign, and then I can use both the minutes and the letter to show support.
Third way. Thank you.
Seems like enough, we keep the documentation cleaner if we have a letter and we can just ratify it later if that works.
Yep, I will get a letter off to Kari.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, thanks. Can I get a second?
Second,
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? There you go.
Great,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Brian. Sorry, I should have kind of started off a little bit with proposed changes or additions. Oh, yeah.
Good, getting stuff, yep. Thank you.
Believe we'll be tabling the community nurse topic. Sorry, just let us know that the folks who are going to be participating in that weren't able to make it tonight, so we'll table that and move on with the agenda if that makes sense to everybody.
And then I just want
Yeah.
to make sure everyone's aware, Martin Eichel is here on Zoom. He's representing the Adamant Music School, which is not explicitly on the agenda, but would best be discussed in the context of the warning. Because Martin is asking that the select board grant an article on the warning for property tax exemption for the music school, which I did discuss in the memo.
Martin, if you're okay with waiting until the town meeting warning, we'll kind of work through a couple other agenda items, if you have the time.
No, you're muted.
Oh, no, you're muted. Sorry.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, that's terrific. I appreciate it. I also.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for putting me on the agenda.
Yeah, no problem. Great. So that brings us to the public comment period. I'm not seeing any other members. Oh, Jonathan.
I do want to make sure we talk about Cole Bliss's request that came from by
Yeah.
email. he sent me an email this afternoon
Okay,
with some clarification, so maybe we could,
well, that seems like that'd be an appropriate time to talk about that now, I guess, since.
wanna do it now?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not on the agenda, and it was kind of commentary that came in from the public, so it seems appropriate to work that into.
Okay.
Comment period. Did everybody have the chance to see Cole's email to the select board about winter road maintenance practices and requests to consider an auditing of those practices?
And then the second.
I saw this first, but I'm just.
He's been too.
Oh, okay. I did not see the second one, so somebody,
So I responded asking for more specifics,
Yes.
whether or not an audit happens, it's good to get feedback about what's working or
Yeah.
not. And it looks like he's saying, he's not trying to single anything out. His request is town-wide audit of all the roads.
well, I think in speaking from my position, I guess personally, after receiving kind of the initial inquiry, I think that that's a pretty tall order. It would be pretty time consuming and presumably pretty expensive to try to contract an independent audit. Without identifying what the scope of that audit is and how many roads, and that would be significant. And so, I'd certainly appreciate Cole's intent not to like identify or single out any particular employee or shortcomings with relation to road maintenance, but I think that makes it pretty hard to address any particular concerns specifically. I just,
Yeah.
does anybody else want to kind of weigh in on the interpretation of that?
Well, I guess I was wondering whether, has this been shared with our road foreman and,
Not yet.
okay,
And I'm
because.
pretty sure that's on his route. Where Cole lives is, Loose Road, I believe, or Bliss Road.
Right, it seems like some internal dialogue and evaluation would be warranted before going on.
Totally agree.
External hired
Yes,
consultant route.
yes,
Yeah, I'm not hearing, I don't believe we've had other community members making this kind of request or statements. So it's an individual experience that we're hearing about.
That's right.
Requesting quite a big investment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think, as you say, internal discussion and maybe, a further. I mean, I, as you said, I appreciate that the person's not trying to call out, individual. But that not providing roads that are examples of the concern.
That's right.
Makes it difficult for us to
Right.
take any action.
Yeah, and I'd say it was a little more, with the exception, I think, of a few key points of feedback that we've received over the season. The one that was standing out was the degree of like sanding on gravel roads, but that was also maybe like a misinterpretation of what material is being put down, because we were putting down more granitic sand that's lighter in color, but aside from that, the general feedback about the road maintenance has been fairly positive so far.
I would agree with that.
This season, but again, that's a little anecdotal, but I think I would certainly invite Cole to give a little bit more specific feedback on particular roads or that he's noticing that, and
Do you want me to get back to him, or?
yeah, I think so. That would be great. And we'll go from there.
Well, and I think the implication is that there's somehow uneven
Right.
usage and in operation, and that's the implication. And so a discussion on that to the extent you can. talk.
Will do.
Could be a time of day thing. Maybe they went back for
It
more
could be,
sand.
like they
or
weren't done yet,
Maybe
right?
it could be.
It is that's one thing I'll say, again, anecdotally, but it's a huge system
Yeah.
for four
Right.
trucks to cover.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What I've noticed the last, oops, they've been out every day, right? What I noticed the last couple days is if they don't have to plow, it goes so much faster.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer, obviously,
Yeah.
but when they do have to plow, it's a 4 to 5 hour, and that's if there's no trees down and all that. So what happens at the beginning, the work they do at the beginning of that route might be undone, it might need to be redone by the end of the route.
Well, and I guess like just the logistics of having to conduct an audit, during like to actually do an audit of our winter road practices would require somebody physically being present on the road during a time that they're performing that. So presumably, they would have to be on call to perform that audit when the roads need to be plowed and sanded or sanded or both independently, and then somehow be simultaneously present on all of the roads to see how it's conducted.
I think we need to really explore that.
No, I'm just to illustrate, I think, how, for lack of better phrasing, how unreasonable and how unattainable.
You would need a
that-
massive sample, I
Yeah,
would think,
that-
to get something. that
It'd
you
be very
have
difficult
confidence
to
in.
perform.
Be better if somebody has a timely complaint to call, so
Right.
somebody can go out and look at it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it could be reported and tracked and,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, encouragement on that.
I mean, Junior used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive all over town, but.
That's what John does.
He does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 in the morning.
And is he driving around and checking on the road?
He is.
So we are doing this, essentially. I mean, someone is checking to.
Well, I was talking about prior to evaluate whether to plow or whether
Yeah.
to sand.
Okay,
You're more describing after the fact, right? Checking on other people's work.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not really aware of that so much.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that.
It also sounds like the entire crew needs retraining or better awareness of, just judging from the emails, that's what he's requesting. So I think if we send, well, the road foreman's looking at it, he might say, oh, well, what if we need an outside person to
Right.
evaluate the crew as a whole.
But we need more evidence that there's actually an issue before.
Right.
That's right. Do such a.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's, table that, further discussion, till we get some more feedback from Cole, and thanks, Kari, for following up.
Yeah.
On that issue. Unless there's any other non-agenda or extra agenda items aside, from the
I just
Hannah
noticed
conversation.
Rose signed on and she might be signing on.
Oh,
It's probably Greg.
Okay, well, anyway, just want to make sure they're not expecting the agenda item that was.
sure.
I'm pretty sure if it's Greg, he's probably here with Daryl to talk about the fire department.
Great, okay, thank you. Sure.
Well, with that, let's, move to,
This is Brent Lilly. I wonder if he has comment on the public comment.
Okay.
Sorry to delay things. We're covering them.
For folks who are just signing in on Zoom, I just want to do a check-in. We're moving a little ahead of schedule, and we're currently in our public comment period. I just want to check in to see if anybody on Zoom is present to weigh in on public comment or is waiting to discuss another agenda item. Brent or Jonathan?
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Oh, okay, thanks, Brent. So moving on to the fiscal 2027 budget conversation, which will include check-in with the East Montpelier Fire Department. Kari has posted a pretty refined version of our draft budget in the budget folder. Was everybody able to find that in the shared drive? That includes now the modifications that we discussed during our last meeting, as well as I'm understanding the requested amount from the East Montpelier Fire Department without modification.
Yes.
So at this point, there are just a handful of things to check, as well as some updated figures on debt servicing as well.
Yeah, that was mostly just principal and interest balancing out.
Okay.
The other significant thing was the last estimated number was the county tax. And we got that number last week, almost 7% increase. So.
Yeah.
And where does that show up, Cory?
That is in the general government near the end. Hold on. Actually on page 2. Taxes, dues and assessment, it's the second one, county tax.
County tax.
And don't ask me what exactly we get for
Yeah.
the 18,000, the judicial system, I think is really what the county does.
So with the adjustments to the highway department and now with everything else included, looks like we're at like a 5.8% increase for highway and general.
5.4 for the municipal portion.
Municipal, yeah.
When we add all the other articles, it's 5.8.
And then I think, that kind of brings us naturally to the conversation with the East Montpelier and originally we were considering providing some feedback on trying to cover a portion of their budgetary requests out of their revenues, which is something that we entertained in the past. I unfortunately wasn't present there, so I can't speak to the dialogue that was had during the last meeting that had to kind of get rescheduled. But it sounds like there's request to kind of stay firm with the initial request, not to pull revenues out of ambulance and
Yeah.
it sounds like East Montpelier is maybe walking back a little bit on their position, on a position to push there as well. So
so Bill and I attended the meeting on Wednesday. Jamie's on Zoom, and if you looked at the revised capital budget, that was the most significant thing I think we were talking about. There was a significant change in assumptions. They're going from a $750,000 surplus in fiscal 22. This is in their capital budget, to a deficit of 600,000 and change. So we went through the assumptions. We talked about what's in there, why it's in there, how it might change, and and then a number of other operational challenges which Daryl will speak to. But the upshot was that the fire department's holding firm on their request for not to make a contribution to the ambulance budget. This current year, they're making it 16,000. Last year, they made $30,000 contribution, but this year they're proposing 0. And by the end of the meeting, Seth anyway was in agreement with them. He was supportive of that. And the East Montpelier Select Board is going to meet, I believe, next week to vote on that. They had, I think, 2 other members of the select board. They weren't saying a lot, but it sounded to me like that they had the East Montpelier's town support. And then Daryl offered to come and talk about, their budget. And I guess I'll just say, Bill and I did our best. We advocated for our position of a $30,000 contribution, but we did not prevail. We did not persuade the other parties.
And there wasn't a counter offer around like meeting at the same level as previous year.
There was not engagement with
Did I do
that.
that correctly, that it was 16 last year and
It's 16 this current year.
FY 25?
Yeah, and I did bring that up at some point, but it didn't, no one bit. And, well, maybe, I'll stop there. Daryl, you wanna add anything?
Sure. So what is inevitable in life? Death and taxes, right? So we're here to reduce debt, you're here to reduce taxes. And the concern is, there's three reasons that we feel that it's not responsible to take away from the capital budget, from the money from base stuff, to offset for 1 year, a few percentage of 1 year. Because first of all, the budget increase that we're asking for the ambulance side is 5%, the 3.2 for the fire side. So we're not asking for 15% increase, things like that. So the three reasons that we need to retain this capital is because we have enormous capital expenses coming. All of our equipment, it gets old and it gets out of date, and there's rules, there's OSHA and NFPA, National Fire Protection Administration rules about how old this equipment can be. We're at the stage in the life cycle of our equipment that right now we need to spend more than $200,000 to replace all of our air packs, all of our SCBA packs, because we just found out that those will not be serviceable after this year. So there's that, as well as the air compressor that makes breathing air to fill those. So there's enormous expenses coming, and that's just the beginning. So we did revisit the capital plan. Thank you very much for your help with that, and thank you for your patience in as we transition. We've changed a lot of the leadership, and I think we're in a really good forward moving space. I really appreciate your patience with that. So we were able to take a look at that capital plan, make it a little more realistic. But the real world is scary, right? So we do have major apparatus that we're going to have to replace in the next few years. So that's factor number one, why we should need to retain this capital. Two is that we need to provide 24/7 coverage, and we do that. And we've been doing that, we'll keep doing that, but without more people on staff, it's actually incredibly more expensive because we're paying a lot of overtime, so time and a half to keep this, to keep the station staffed all night long. And a big reason for that is because we've been underpaying our per diem ambulance staff, compared to all their other options in the area. So we've come up with a plan to get their pay up to par. Mm-hmm. That's going to be about $35,000 a year more than we expected. So that's money that really needs to go to the providers, so we can attract the best providers, but also save money by not paying tons of overtime. So that's number two. Number three is there are a number of rules coming down from, I mentioned OSHA and NFPA, coming down, from on high, that's fire departments across the country are going to have a very hard time, especially small rural fire departments, because they're having these new rules about the age of that equipment, about the amount of training that people need to have, and it's just more big capital expenses that if we can maintain that capital fund to pay for those things, rather than taking a little piece here, a little piece there, just to shave off a little bit of the budget, it's going to keep us in a much better place to be able to service the community.
Anybody have any questions or commentary?
I just have a comment. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in the meeting, but 2029, there's a forecasted $500,000 deficit in the capital plan.
Right.
So I guess what I'd like to see is how you plan on dealing with that. I mean, are you gonna pay $400,000 for an ambulance, or are you gonna have a down payment and then have payments? I mean, somebody has to take this thing and make it work, because right now it doesn't work.
No, it absolutely doesn't work, and we don't take into account trade-ins, we don't take account, the possibility of grants, we don't take account the possibility of finance, we don't know what those terms are. So as kind of, as what we know right now, that's the picture. Obviously, that's not serviceable. That's, we can't actually pay $700,000, for the pumper and, whatever it is.
But I think you have to come up with a guess. Someone has to take this and come up with a decent guess and put it in the notes, as this is what we thought we were doing here, to make it balance. Or you're gonna say you're gonna go to the two towns and get 200,000 from each of us.
Well,
Something has to be in there to make this balance, because otherwise this doesn't work.
correct. Yes.
Okay.
And that's, that should be a footnote. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the rest of my kind of commentary on it is, I do want to recognize that there's obviously been a lot of turnover, and we've been, from at least my tenure on the select board, providing a lot of feedback about like adding more transparency into the fiscal situation and the capital planning and more structure, and we spent a lot of time working on an interlocal that I think gave a lot more autonomy to the department to like make these decisions about spending a little more freely as you needed to, knowing that equipment's getting more expensive, and the funds are there, and then they should be used as intended. And so I think we're trending in the right direction. And at the end of the day, we're really talking about like a gross whole number that's being requested, and really this request only comes out of like a specific request historically from the select boards to get some sort of token contribution, towards out of the revenues generated from the ambulance towards the capital planning or funds. And to that end, it's like, for lack of better phrasing, it's like a token representation of skin in the game that you're making good faith, commitment to help also offset some of the costs relative to revenues generated. And I know that I don't have this same line of sight into the last 20 years of this, but and that the operational environment has obviously changed a lot. Like, this is the idea of a self-funded police or ambulance and fire through revenues is not tenable, and so the towns need to kind of get used to contributing. But I think continuing to consider a token amount of contribution from the revenues, I think goes a long way, certainly when we have to ask questions about what we're doing to help kind of keep costs down, and responsibly oversee the agreements that we have with our emergency services. So I hear what you're saying, and I think we are trending in the right direction as we move through like the next year or two, continuing to get that kind of collaborative dialogue worked through, so that we're feeling really confident in the capital planning, and getting a good bit of transparency in what that plan is and what the cost implications are going to be, and how that feeds back into the budgeting process as well. I'd still say that there's a fair amount of confusion from my perspective, and like just literacy in trying to track expenditures and incomes with the way that the financials are presented. It's been getting better certainly in the last couple of years, but there's still like it's really hard to like just track the ins and the outs.
It's inherently confusing the way it's
Yeah.
structured with the insurance revenue.
Yeah.
I don't think that their statements have changed so much.
No.
But I will say that, from my point of view, the capital budget is a big improvement
It's a
this
huge
year. And mostly that you're taking it seriously, engaging with it. It was hard to get before. I think Bill's point is the next big step is like, how would we actually pay for these things? Now we know what we need and approximately when. And financing, I think, is inevitable because it just, you just, like Bill said, you can't make it work. Yeah, so I guess why the floor. One other thing is that it's a little bit of an odd situation to have the two towns consider funding at non-historic levels. I mean, I don't know that we've ever faced that, and I don't or like that idea at all, because it is a partnership.
Yeah, do you have any information going further back? Like we said, it was 16,000 this year, it was 30,000 the year before. Had it been 30,000 for decades, or had it been nothing and it was, I'm just curious for more.
I thought it had been in 30 or something like
That was my
in
recollection.
recent years, but we never talked about it. Greg might know better, but yeah, it was. Yeah.
And are you anticipating this sort of being we wanted nothing this year while we rearrange and we'll consider going back to it in the future? Is it more about we want to be done putting money into that?
No, I don't think this is a forever. It's, and if we, come back next year and we need to, if we have to raise the budget, double digits, well, then maybe this is a tool we can engage. This year, we're able to keep it to 5%, which, look around, it's really, that's not a scary amount at all. So no, I wouldn't anticipate that, that's it forever.
I'd say another thing that's really encouraging, one of the kind of informal meetings that we had, the fire department expressed an interest in shifting the budget. Like part of this is awkward because you guys are ratifying your own budget after we've already gone through a pretty significant amount of review of our own budget. And so there's already been a commitment to revisit kind of their budgeting schedule and bringing that forward so that if and when we do re-engage in these kinds of conversations and want to kind of go back a couple of times, we're going to have a little bit more, from my perspective, appropriate opportunity to do that before everybody's so far down the road and we can kind of work through some of that dialogue. And it doesn't seem like so much of a political game of armsmen, budgetary arms racing, which I do really appreciate, because I think East Montpelier is the same way.
Yeah, there's no reason that we had waited so long, so why wait so long?
Yeah.
So as soon as the fiscal year is over, we're gonna start planning.
Yeah, that's great.
And, not be here at the low.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is a significant change. And I hope we realize that in the coming fiscal year. Is it fair to say that I'm not hearing a strong sentiment to deviate from the requested amount and maintaining that in our budget? Or finding a way, or does somebody want to propose something else?
I'm just trying to get my head to it, to the place where, I mean, I agree. I think, impressive work has been done and lots of positive forward motion. I totally appreciate that. It seems like a very conservative, like a very, very conservative move. Given the fact that how it impacts the towns, right? So that's what I'm hearing a little bit, is that it seems so far, that maybe it's too the department's being a little more conservative than it merits. But you all have been, much more, much deeper, and I'm thinking about it in terms of the percentage points, right, of like, what percentage moves for us versus, a small, some kind of contribution, towards that would actually make an impact for us that's quite significant, for our taxpayers, so just trying to get at that,
Yeah, 10 grand's like half a percentage point.
right?
Of course, it is in the special article, right? So it'll be, so it'll be up to the voters,
Uh-huh,
as, but. I don't know, for what that matters, it's not embedded in our town budget.
right,
But it goes into the ambulance line, when really it's not an ambulance thing, it's a whole East Montpelier Fire Department thing. It's going to the capital plan, correct? That's where this money's going? This 30,
Well, by them not contributing to the ambulance operating budget, that just means that article that voters will vote on a town meeting is just that much higher. It's $10,000 more.
right.
So
But it's a separate article from the main budget.
Mhm.
And people have the opportunity to question that. I'm sure Daryl and Thomas will be there, and they can change it, they can add to it, or they can lower it.
Yeah.
It's just a different process that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that from, I guess, my perspective, because it is a separate warrant article, we have an obligation to do our best to advocate on behalf of the voters and our oversight of the interlocal, to see where we can influence these things, but to the extent that we would modify that article to, as it gets warned to the voters, I think is a whole nother level of action
Yeah.
that I think would be somewhat inappropriate, that if somebody wants to, what's that?
I mean, I think we're not.
I just, that's essentially at this point, that's what we would be needing to consider is in our accepting of the warning, we would need to make a decision as a body to short fund that in the warning essentially. And I think that is maybe a bridge too far in what would be appropriate. It's already a separate article that it has the opportunity for more discussion.
I think you could argue it both ways.
Yeah.
It's their budget. You can say with a straight face, this is what they're requesting.
Yeah.
But you did vet it, right? And as a voter, I would think the select board's, like you say, you're advocating and figuring out what's the right balance for us to vote on. I guess to me, I go back to I really don't like the idea of there being a discrepancy between East Montpelier.
Right.
No.
Hear you.
That's a terrible precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Potential.
we don't want to do that.
but the East Montpelier Select Board decides when.
I think it's next week, like Wednesday or something.
Is there a way do we wait? I don't know, I mean,
It's getting awfully close for
Yeah.
getting the warning out, right? Because we need to have, our next meeting is in
The idea tonight was to approve the warning
the
and then
warning.
sign it
Yeah.
next time.
right,
We do any cleanup.
but you don't, based on what you've heard, you don't anticipate,
I'm pretty sure they're gonna support the request.
Yeah.
is
The
that,
fire department's request. That was my read.
There were three of the select board
There
members.
was 3 there. And
Okay.
Seth was.
I just don't wanna be surprised. I mean, it's possible, but if you already have some sense of it,
I have a pretty strong sense of it.
okay.
So
Workplace kind of thing.
I think, what's that?
That rock
It's a little
hard
bit
place.
like that rock hard place kind of.
Well, and
I mean, I think if I'm gonna propose something, I'd say that we should probably propose that we keep it as requested. That seems to be the consensus. We're trending in the right
direction with the leadership of the East Montpelier Fire Department and ambulance services, and we've got a kind of good cooperative relationship there. And we want to be in alignment with East Montpelier's level of funding. So that being said, we'll have the opportunity to make a slight modification when we sign the warning at our next meeting. If for some reason there is a departure from that, somehow East Montpelier decides that they
Yeah, I think you could.
are gonna modify it, we could modify our warning. But for now, we'll leave the requested amount in the proposed warning that we discussed and approve later today.
And we do support the East Montpelier.
Of course,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you very much for taking the time to come and meet with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for your, understanding and patience.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
So further discussion on the budget, the possible action for tonight is to approve the budget as it's been prepared. And that's kind of the last big decision. Are there other budget items that need to be discussed or weighed in on? Or
Sorry, thank you for your work.
Mhm.
yeah.
I had a minor confusion
Okay.
on under the highway grant expenses at the bottom of page 5. And I just thought maybe we could clarify this. There's a Moscow Woods Bridge grant and an East Calais Bridge temporary repair item.
Oh,
And I wondered if that was potentially confusing to people and we could have Moscow Woods / East Calais Bridge somehow as a symbol.
they're separate,
Okay, they're separate.
accounts in
Okay.
our accounting system,
All right.
but you're right, I think that just the temporary repair was its own grant.
Okay, okay, that answers.
There's a long history to trying to do something with
And
this
it
bridge.
lives that,
Yeah.
it lives with that, like we live with line items for,
We do,
Over
yeah, we
years.
do,
Really?
yeah.
there's no sunsetting at.
Well, when they zero out, they go,
Yeah, next year's budget.
But because that's why.
so it'll be that temporary repair won't show up next year.
Right, because
Okay.
it'll just.
Okay,
Flop up
okay,
the
fair enough,
left
thank you,
side.
yes.
And that's an argument for leaving it as is because
Yeah, that's
they
fine.
are separate grants.
Actually, well, that answers the question, thank you.
It's not our budget, but if you saw my discussion of the CLA, the common level
Oh,
of
yeah.
appraisal equalization study. So I went and looked at the Washington central budgets that they're proposing, and Calais, because of this shift, is projected to have the highest impact on tax rates. It's in both versions, it's over 21%. A fifth of
21%
property taxes.
increase?
Yes, the taxes. And it's driven in large part by this change in the CLA and then the SA, the statewide adjustment. It's not as bad as what Washington Central, the information they were working on. I don't know where they get estimates, but it's like 3 percentage points better, but it's still bad. And it's just context.
Yeah.
For our budget.
If our reappraisal this year and we're basing next year's taxes on the reappraised values, is that percentage gonna change this year? So will they tax us?
So it's a good question. I think that we won't actually we'll have new values and we'll have a new tax rate as a result. So the CLA will theoretically be 100%,
Right.
for 1 year
Right.
only, but what this is an indicator of what the state says the market is relative to our values. So I would think, and I really want to understand this better with the listers, but I would think that, we will find that our property values line up with what the state is finding.
So the property values are going up 21%.
Probably.
My understanding is that the property values are too low. And this is the state's way of making that up.
Yeah,
But
But
next
are
year,
they-
next year, we can't expect it to go down.
yeah, then it'll, then the rate will go down,
Nope.
but our
Taxes,
property.
taxes will still go up.
will
I mean,
not.
they're going up now, but it's only,
Taxes always go up.
they're always gonna go up. But I don't know.
The rate won't have the same increase.
This happened in Worcester last year.
Paying on a larger base.
And then this happened in Worcester last year where they were the town that had a 20% or something, double-digit increase.
Yeah.
And I was told that it was based on the sale of one home, right? Because the state is looking at what happened in the market. And in these tiny little towns like
Yeah.
ours is,
Yeah.
I can think of two properties that sold well over $1 million. And
Right.
all of a sudden it makes it look like, Calais is like a,
Oh.
old town. And the value, the property values are not, we haven't reappraised them forever, so. we're just-
So the question is, when will the new property values go into effect and be used?
The
Not,
next grand list in the spring.
So they'll go into effect for our town taxes, but it will also go into effect for the school taxes. So the rate that they're proposing now in all these budgets is based on our current grand list. But that's not what we're gonna have in the fall. We're gonna have a different grand list, so this is the percentage based on our current property values.
Yeah, if we
and
were,
and you're saying they will change by the time.
We pay taxes.
Okay.
Okay,
Anyway,
it's not good news. It's really bad news. And, but we don't know exactly how it's gonna play out, but this is,
Yeah.
and voters don't know. At town meeting, they don't, for the most part.
So at town meeting, we approved the budget, but we don't know what the taxes will be by town.
The education tax,
The educated.
because it all gets pooled together and then the legislature decides,
we just have the letter, right?
we have the letter.
What does the letter say?
The letter-
Percentage is,
The letter estimated a 12% increase,
Right.
and that's not factoring in the town-specific CLA.
correct.
That's just the statewide average and
But that would be with
expenses.
the general public, if they even pay attention to that letter.
Well, and the school does lay it all out, CLAs and all of that.
Yeah.
And the 20% translates to $440 per $100,000 of home. So another $1,000 for most taxpayers. Or more. Anyway, there's nothing we can do about that, but
Well, I think it's,
I do wonder if there's an opportunity for us to have, like, who's the owner of that message, and when is an appropriate time to try to get that information as forward as possible, in the community. And it seems like, is there a way that we can have somebody representing that calculus at town meeting to,
the school board,
yeah,
Mhm.
And they don't have a budget yet.
right.
I don't actually think the school board can talk about this school's budget at our annual meeting. I think you do it the night before their annual meeting. But because it's the voters, don't have a chance to be in the same room at the same time, I don't think they can actually address it. It's, yeah.
They will theoretically be having informational meetings comparing a yes and a no vote on the school closure, and at those meetings, they should talk about what sort of tax increase either vote would mean.
right,
So that question might be answered in a sideways way in those meetings, I just don't know.
Well,
It's sobering, and I guess that I don't know that there's much that we can do other than anticipate the dialogue that comes as a result of it. I think that, again, from the municipal governance side, knowing that we have very little control over what that is, the feedback that the select board needs from the constituency, relative to town sentiment or decision, school side,
needs to then inform or empower how the municipality like makes plans for modifying its expenditures, you know, if people want to decide for example, to pay a premium for a school budget, is the expectation from the constituency to also see the government change its spending to reduce taxes on the other side, and that the connection between those two issues has not been made clear to me.
Or the
That's-
disconnect.
Or the disconnect,
Right.
you know, neither has been made clear, you know, that we should be
In
Way.
to put forward a budget that has as, a reasonable percent increase.
That's right.
Compared to what, I mean, I heard anecdotally, there's double digits in surrounding towns, some surrounding towns.
Yeah.
So I think we've, whatever, to the extent we have control over. We have worked hard to have, keep things in control the best we can. And we cannot control the narrative nor the school board.
And the voters vote on the school budget separately.
Separately.
They can vote it down.
I was mostly just venting, but yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's.
But it is a difficult context to be operating in, and it's, when such an expense comes along or such an increase comes along, there will be a certain amount of blame going on. And,
We collect the taxes.
yeah, yeah.
Their names
So,
are- yeah.
to the extent we can situate, whenever we're, like, if we are doing our briefing, this is completely separate from, you'll recall, citizens of Calais.
Yeah.
This is completely separate from the calculation and,
Yeah. Let's make that
On the
point.
school
It's about
side.
70-30 split on your property taxes, and I'm sure it's gonna be different next year.
Yeah,
But just so everyone's aware, the school is contemplating reducing their expenses by 0.5% in their budgets. So they're making a good faith effort as well. It's that the demographics, the real estate market, and just general inflation in the state.
Okay.
Are there other items on the budget to dig into prior to entertaining a motion to accept the,
I guess I
Review
wanted
and
to
propose.
understand if,
Yeah.
Bill, you were in agreement with how this shook out on the truck capital expense that,
I'm okay that,
I mean, just as seeing it in the number.
Cara and I spoke briefly about it, after, and I guess, we've done this before, and we've put the money back.
Mhm,
And if we can, good faith do that, then that's okay with me.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
part of getting elected again, Bill, is make sure that we do it again, with the money back.
Oh,
Behind it. Just an easy stab.
Um,
I think we've talked this thing
I
through.
think we have to.
We have. And,
It's a lot of work, thank you.
We did our best.
Yeah, it's a good process.
Well,
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
I also
we're
want,
not just throwing a dart here, there's a lot of stuff in here,
Yeah. Well, and there's a cumulative effect, right? Like the last year's work
Mhm.
and this year's work, we end up with, a great learning and improvements each
Closer to what we
year.
want, right?
Absolutely. It's great.
yeah, thank you, Harry. And thanks everyone for going through this process. So with that, I'd like to entertain a moment to, movement,
A motion.
motion? Where are we? Entertain a motion to, adopt and approve, the, FY 2027 budget, which will then inform the town meeting warning.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thank you everyone for your contributions. Town meeting warning.
All right, well, setting aside the music school for just a moment, I think we've answered the remaining questions on the warrant. Because we now have a budget and we
That's right.
confirmed the ambulance amount.
Yep. So that should. And also there was the request that for pending potential request for another warning that has been walked back.
That's right.
So
Right.
That was the other
we
thing.
aren't anticipating any other additions. Has everybody had a chance to review the warning as it was prepared with some informed assumptions about the dialogue that kind of transpired this evening? With the exception being conversation about Adamant, the music school.
Yeah, so you want to get into that?
Yeah, I think that
Okay.
would be appropriate.
So I'll just give a quick setup and then Martin's here. So last spring, I believe, the Adamant Music School applied for property tax exemption using the statutory process, which is a state application that gets submitted to the listers, and the listers are actually, they made the initial judgment as to whether an organization is eligible for property tax exemption, and they got into that process, and then sometime I believe in the summer, the listers asked for more information. Because I think what they're trying to do is establish, is there a public good provided by the organization? They asked the school about their selection or admission criteria, and they wanted to know more about that process. And then my understanding is that that process stopped right there. And then I think last week, Martin got in touch saying that they would like to pursue the other method that's available for property tax exemption, which is of course having the voters approve it at a meeting, a special meeting or annual meeting. And so we did a little bit of research into that, are they an eligible organization? And I just actually follow-up conversation with our attorney this evening at 5 o'clock. And he said, yes, he agrees with the analysis that Martin provided. So long as they met the criteria, which included, being I forget what the steps were, but basically concluded it's okay. So I didn't get actual language for the article, and I guess we would have to develop that, but we have, just so you're aware, 7 other properties that are tax exempt. And those are on a 5-year voting cycle. I think we're in the 4th year. Is that correct? So our proposal, if we were going to go this route, would be to have a vote for 1 year, and then if the voters approved, to put them on a revote next year with the other 7 properties.
Wait.
Get them on the same schedule as the other 7.
Like, sync them up in the schedule.
7 properties in Adamant?
No, 7 properties around the
That's
town.
fine.
It includes the East Calais, the rec center.
Okay.
Right, they have a couple of parcels, like Maple Corners Community Center, Adamant Community Center, the co-op. So anyway, so then I asked the attorney, do you have any discretion? Is this, and he said, yes, you would. He said that in one town he's aware of, the select board has an informal practice of requiring a number of signatures, equivalent to what's needed for a petition. And Adamant Musical, just so you're aware, they have that option too, to go to a position getting 5% of voters and not asking the select board. some towns apparently have that as a step for the select board, like, we want to see some baseline support before you can put this to a vote.
Mhm.
And they do that the first time, and then if it passes, then it's assumed that it has a certain amount of support. So I guess I'll pause there and,
But
Martin,
then-
would,
Sorry, just to clarify, those 7 other properties, did they go through what?
I don't know what the history of that is.
But we don't have a process in place where we say
Not that I'm aware
a
of.
petition first, etc. Okay, thank you.
Martin, would you like to chime in at this point and fill that out?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. My name is Martin Hakel. I'm president of the Adamant Music School Board. About 2.5 years ago, I was asked to take the helm of the board because the school was frankly in grave risk of closing. And there was a lot of activity to try to get some of the right leadership into the board and see what could be done to preserve the school. A lot has been done in 2.5 years. We're a working board. We're all volunteers. I took the position with some trepidation. I've been probably working about 40 to 50 hours a week for 2.5 years as a volunteer to try to figure out how we're going to develop a roadmap, frankly, how we're going to get out from under being at risk. And we're making some pretty good headway, but we're not out of the woods by any means. So I sent a letter, a formal letter just this past Friday, outlining sort of a request for a 5-year property tax exemption based on certain reasons that we feel are validated through some of the work that we do, some of the sort of charity type of work or public good work that we do. You may not have had a chance to see yet, but I hope you might take a look. For us, the exemption we're seeking isn't about profitability. It's really about sustainability. And we're a nonprofit. We're really that uses sort of resources for 2 things: teaching piano programs for pianists from around, well, Calais, Vermont, and frankly, the world. I don't know what you know about Adamant, but we have people coming in from pretty much around the globe, both pianists and faculty persons in the summertime. But secondly, I think we also provide public good for the town that the town might otherwise not have. And we believe that this is what makes us eligible for the local option. We've taken a look at statute 32 VSA 38.40, and which we referenced in the letter. And I think we really fall pretty much squarely into that. There's sort of any questions so far, and I want to talk about what we think are some key areas that we provide public good around. Okay.
Yeah, I'd stay on that. line.
We did see the letter, did we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
we
we
have
have
seen
the
the
letter.
letter, just so you know, Martin.
Oh, okay, terrific.
Okay.
Yeah. I know how it is with our board. We don't always have time to read it in advance of the board meeting. But sort of there's several areas that we think are valuable to our local community. The one that's quite obvious is that we think that because our property is at the crossroads of Adamant, we have maintained a large tract of land that we landscape, and we feel that it has sort of historic preservation for the village. We have extensive flower beds and picnic tables, benches, 2 waterfalls, ponds that we've maintained and actually built many years ago. So it's a beautiful property. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's open, completely open to the public. It's at the main crossroads. And I think it sort of effectively serves as a town green for Adamant. families have photos taken there on their property all the time, high school graduate photos, weddings, other special occasion kinds of things. And so we've kept it this sort of open space, a civic space for public use, at no cost to anyone in the community. The other sort of area that we think is important is sort of having to do with land preservation. We'd like to see that Adamant remains intact, and the community has expressed interest in protecting it from closure and from potential development. We have about 130 acres, I think I mentioned, and it's an idyllic area, and we have become a sort of vital part of the community, and we'd like to see that preserved. And so it's important that we continue to be sustainable. The thing that I think we also bring to Adamant and to Calais is access to high-level music culture. We think it's sort of an essential public service. It's not just a luxury. From a rural community like Calais, having a local center for world-class artistry, we think is beneficial. It's vital. Residents can experience, the transformative power of the music that enriches the area. I think it also brings local identity and ensures that the area remains vibrant. So living and living, it's a living community with music, and it's not just a sort of residential outpost. Just to give you an example, we provide about 12 concerts each summer that are free to residents of Calais. We bring performers in from around the world. For example, this past summer, I don't know, maybe some of you may have been there. We had standing room only at the Haybarn Theater for local residents, no charge, providing a Van Cliburn silver medalist who came in from Germany and just presented this transformative concert. So we bring music to Calais. The type of artistry that we bring is typically reserved for only global cities like London or New York City and places like that in terms of the types of people we bring. So we feel that has that sort of music culture we bring to the area is very important. Other than that, those are sort of three areas that we sort of see providing common good. I mean, there's also the economic, but that's really not part of the statute in terms of helping with job creation. We hire all our summer local help locally. We certainly support all the trades. We employ the plumbers and carpenters, electricians to maintain our buildings and so forth. So we also source our food from a lot of local farmers, which we want to preserve, this sort of farm to table approach. I think lastly, I don't know if it really matters, but I'll just throw it out there. I think we also, to us, we don't feel we consume very much of town resources, except the road that services the entire community. We've never used a public school system. We're only open in the summer, and other than that, we really haven't placed any demand for town resources. We pretty much operate independently of any cost to the town. So for those reasons, we would like to ask for to be placed on the warning list or memo and have an opportunity to present to the community that we have a 5-year exemption. We're in a really critical state right now. We have I think I mentioned a roadmap. We have a 25-page strategic plan that we've been following for the last 2 years. We're really financially in a very challenging time, and we think we can pull through it with some contribution from the community. We will know much better in probably about 2 years. This coming year and the next year are very critical to us. There's lots of things we're doing to make sure that we become sustainable. I can address any of those kind of questions if you're interested. So that's kind of the high points of. Are there any questions?
My question, thank you. My question about this is whether you anticipate requesting this in perpetuity, or you're just asking for it for these next 5 years?
Primarily for just the next 5 years, which is one reason actually why we didn't want to go through the state process, which is permanent. I mean, we want to be provider locally if we can be for taxes. And if we can get to a point of sustainability where we're now self-reliant and dependent and we can continue on without the risk of closing, we'd like to meet with you, every 5 years. And if we get to a point where we welcome you to look at our financials, if you see that we're doing quite well, we certainly wouldn't have any qualms about, participating again and being on the tax rolls. But right now, we've been paying taxes all along for many years. It's a huge burden for us, particularly now. But I would say really in the last 4 years, I don't know if you know, but we're running about $250,000 deficit a year. We don't really have much time. We have to really pull out of that. Did I lose everyone?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh.
it just kind of cut out there.
Just had a blip. I think we're all set.
I think we're okay.
Okay. So prior to about 4 years ago, I don't know if you know the history, but there was a gentleman who was a high net worth person, and he basically wrote a check for the deficit every year for the last 40 years in that range. In today's money, $250,000. So, but he passed away about 4 years ago, and the school has been then on its own since. Now we are looking for other donors, and that's one of the revenue sources that we're looking to secure, but and have made some progress with. I hope that
Has the association pursued or investigated like any other kind of land conservation options? I mean, they're probably limited in scope for the parcels that are right in the village center, but the vast majority of the of the acreage is the 133 acres north of the village. Is there any conservation easements on that parcel, or like current use management that would help alleviate the tax burden of that parcel?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer several questions you had there. First of all, we have sought grants. We're getting, to be honest with you, we're quite under-resourced, but it's something that we have been engaged in more this year. We started last year. We met with some various organizations, and what I found is that Vermont was very interested in community preservation. They want to preserve these smaller communities, and there were, at least there was, I don't know what the situation is now, there were monies for that. And so we're definitely going to be applying for as many of those kind of grants as we possibly can as part of a multi-pronged process to gain more revenues for the organization. Now, one thing is there was one organization that talked about that the town buy our campus and raise millions of dollars from the community, sort of like they did to the general store, but it's a real long-term proposition. And I don't know if that really, to be honest with you, we can't wait that long for that whole process to occur. So we're looking for more immediate types of grants. Now, one of the things we're looking at is we're also opening up our primary building, which has been there since it's been part of our organization since World War II. And we want to open up as a museum. There's a woman who started this school back in the 40s, and she was a very active person also within the community. I understood that she helped save the post office in the area, but she was also connected with Eleanor Roosevelt. There's communications with her. She had Edward Hopper, who's a famous American artist. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's at famous, high-end museums in New York City and all over the world. And he painted there. So just a really interesting history that she has. And we want to open that up. We have boxes and boxes of archival material. We want to open up for research. We want to open up just for people to hear more about her background. We do have a person on the board who knows a lot about it, who's spoken at various town hall meetings about the history of that event. We also want to open up our music library, which has thousands of scores of music for students and really for anybody in the community, musicians in the community that they can rent out for without any charge. So that's another initiative we have underway. We are looking for grant money. In terms of the rest of the campus, all of it is our whole music organization is spread throughout the whole 130 acres. In what we call sort of the north end, we have buildings there. We also have some 28 piano studios with each with a grand piano and one or two grand pianos. We have almost 50 grand pianos on campus, and they're really spread out throughout the entire 130 acres in these little studios. So we use all the space. Now people do hike, ski in the winter. We've had a lot of requests for people that want to hunt, which we allow for. We basically open up our entire property for anybody who wants to use it. In terms of land use, yeah, we have there was something, I don't know how far we're into it. I think quite far. Land use, forestry land use, where we have some kind of relief. It seems sort of de minimis in terms of the amount of relief we get from that. But yeah, we do have that as well.
Which I just looked it up and they are enrolled in current use. That reduces the appraised value of that 124 acre parcel by about a fifth, about 20%. Knocks 112,000 off the appraised value. It's good.
There's sort of three, I don't know if that's of interest, but there are sort of three big buckets of revenue source we're looking at. I mean, one is we want to expand our programming. When I first took over, the question I had to the board is I said, how can we be closed for 45 weeks a year and be sustainable? I put it in that context instead of people saying, hey, we're open for 7 weeks of summer. So the point is that it's highly underutilized. And so we've already started this past year, the year before, bringing in more programming. And so we're expanding on the number of programs. So we'll have people there earlier in the summer, late spring, into the autumn, with more of a greater variety of piano type programs and so forth, which will bring in much more revenue as well. And then it's also about marketing properly, making sure we have full enrollment for all our classes. We certainly include all local people from wherever we have people from Montpelier. I don't think we had anybody from Calais per se. They may have had residency though in Calais, I'm not sure, that come, and we highly subsidize people in the community if they want to attend our programs. So that's one revenue source. The other one is philanthropic efforts, which we are now beefing up and building a plan around so that we can get more donation coming in. Most of that's really coming from outside of Vermont, from faculty and people that are outside the state. A lot of these people who come to AdMed in the summer. So that's a huge opportunity for us, and we're making headway there. The third thing is also just expanding a bit to other types of programming. Which is part of our mission statement to provide access to our facilities. So we've had local meditation groups come in, for example, and we had a small wedding, people that wanted to had photographs and things like that taken for a wedding, which we always allow. But so just looking to see if we have any idle weeks, what we can do to get other what we can do to open our facilities up to people that in the community that might need it for other purposes. Those are sort of the three major areas. Now, of course, those are all revenue generating. On the cost management side, you know, we've pretty much pared down to the bone everything we can on an expense basis, and that's why this tax burden is quite large for us. It would be a big help for us to have some relief from it, at least for the next 5 years.
Is the northern property posted by the quarry?
Is it what?
Is that posted? Is the property posted?
What, I'm sorry, what do you mean posted?
Does it have no trespassing signs around it?
Oh, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
So, the rest of my questions are a little more kind of administrative and kind of logistical in nature. About, you know, considering, you know, considering the adding a warning and kind of the merits of that and that sort of thing. So it seems like the request is to consider adding a warning to, or adding an article to the warning, which would be posing a question, I guess, would that be for a floor vote, or would that be an article? Yeah, so that would be a floor vote. And then there's kind of a decision on whether or not, you know, we accept that particular action or take that action relative to like a 1-year request to put them on the property cycle or the consideration cycle for other exempt parcels. Or whether it gets added as an article to put it on its own cycle of 5 years.
Yeah.
Just so I'm understanding that correctly, that Tegan, does that sound about right?
Yeah, we try to put everything else on the same cycle just so that nothing slips through the cracks. So if we're gonna proceed, my recommendation would be to do 1 year, not out of any doubt that we would continue, just to so that it could be lumped in with the others next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if folks saw my note about the amount of money
Yeah.
we're discussing. I mean,
Yes.
it's
It's in the 35,000,
it's significant.
36,708.
So,
So that, you know, if that's not raised here, it's split essentially. Right, the money has to come
The
from
taxpayer
other taxpayers.
Yeah,
Not only the town portion, but the education portion as well.
Ooh,
Right.
so this is 36,000 is municipal and
It's the total,
education tax.
it's the total, yeah, but
for the upcoming tax year.
so it's not a small amount, I mean, compared to the other properties we have, that we're talking about quite a bit of grand list value. It's not an expense, right, it's a reduction of revenue.
Yeah.
Cause we're saying this value is not gonna be taxed.
It raises other
Sorry.
people's taxes.
sorry.
Well, that's why we were interested in doing it as a community choice, you know, versus sort of working through the state, which is what I think statute 3840 sort of addresses, is to that sort of community choice and having the community vote on such a matter.
Well, so if I can add some commentary on that, because that's another part of like a point of kind of conflict for me is that like I think it's prudent to be sensitive to what like the select board makes a decision around to put on a warning like this, because historically, from at least my perspective, these types of things have this kind of indirect assumption of being the recommendation of the select board. And I don't think that I think that this is a good dialogue that we're having now, and I want to recognize what I do perceive to be as like some real value of the school as a community member in Adamant, and be, you know, respectful of the community members in Adamant specifically, and their very local community. I don't mean to diminish that, but But this wouldn't be, I'm sensitive to the fact that this could be perceived as a recommendation, and then also as a floor vote, you're really only getting the input of the people who are able to attend and comfortable weighing in on this particular item during town meeting, and that to me still falls short of a comprehensive vote from the community to make a decision around this, and it's not an insignificant tax burden for other members of the community to absorb. So, I would personally feel more comfortable with a warning like this being added, or an article like this being added to the warning if it had gone through some sort of petition process where there's very explicit requests being made of the select board, because I just really want to be sensitive to the perception of an article being added as a decision of the select board, even if it passes a legislative sniff test to do so, because this could have some pretty significant budgetary implications for households that may not feel like they've been able to weigh in or get all of the information about making an informed decision.
So, yeah, Martin, can I ask, have you been in conversation with members of the community in Adamant? Are there people there who have, are in support of this? It would normally be the sort of thing that we would receive by a petition by people, asking us to add something to the ballot, with, the signatures of voters. So wondering if I'm sure that there are people in Adamant who are big fans of the music school, and I'm just wondering the extent to which you're in conversation with them.
Yeah, excuse me, no, that's a good question. There was a well-attended town hall at Adamant, more than one, but one in particular, where a gentleman came to present. I don't have the name in front of me, I can look it up, but from a community preservation trust organization.
Ben Doyle.
Yes.
Was it Ben Doyle? Yeah.
Yeah, were you there? And
I was not there, but that's who runs Conservation Trust.
But he talked about the option that the town were to procure the entire property, lease it back to the music school, and things of that nature, and then try to use it for other purposes, I guess. But the town was, my understanding, I wasn't at that particular meeting. There were board members that were there, that the town is very concerned that when they heard that we are at a point of we're potentially closing. It was addressed by the prior board in 2003, I think. I don't know if it was formally done, but it's certainly it was more than a rumor, but it really caught fire in the community that they were thinking of potentially having to close in 2024. It scared a lot of people. And that's about the time I got in on the board. But yeah, I think the town is very much in support of keeping this going, and but that's about all I can say about that. We haven't done any kind of balloting or petitioning or anything like that.
Right.
Would it be helpful if we had a petition, or you mentioned? I'm sorry, I don't know the chair's name.
Oh, Jordan.
Jordan, with respect to the floor vote, are there any other options in a floor vote to have something like this reviewed, a warning, or voted upon?
There's the two routes. You have select board approve it, or you can get a petition with 5% of registered voters, which Tegan is 770.
72, I think. It's
And,
not limited to town meeting.
but that's right, so I was wondering, so like if it then goes to petition for a vote, then that could potentially be added to ballots that get mailed, is that right, or no? Or now we're talking about two
Right.
different
No,
things?
it'd be a, in-person meeting.
A special town
So we
meeting,
would hold a
special
meeting,
election.
like town meeting. I think it would have to be a floor vote, because that's how we vote that sort of question.
Hmm.
So we would have to have a meeting at the gym or here or somewhere that was warned and went through all the bells and whistles of an election.
But if the timing were right, it could be petitioned to be on the town meeting ballot
If
this
they get in
May,
by 5 o'clock Thursday.
right? This.
Right up against deadlines now.
Yeah, it's getting late for that, but it's the same general process that the Curtis Pond Dam bond went through. It originally came to the select board
Right.
to go on the warning for the bond. The select board, making a similar argument Jordan just made, said, you know, we don't want to necessarily put it on ourselves, but if you do a petition to put it on, great.
I like that
And
solution.
so we did the petition and it got on and it wasn't a voice vote, it was on the mailed
Because a
ballot,
bond is
because it was a
different.
bond.
Yeah, tax exemption and a bond are different.
Can a tax exemption be on a mailed ballot? Like, would that be a choice?
I
Just curious.
think that's not how
No,
we
it's
set it
not.
up. We voted to vote certain things on the ballot and certain things on the floor. And so we voted to move our zoning regs and bond votes and certain offices to the Australian ballot, but tax exemption is not part of the voting.
But I referred to in the beginning that Rutland has a informal policy that a select board
Right.
wants to see a petition, the equivalent, before it will in fact. There would be no reason actually to go to the select board other than to get their support, but
Right.
you have those 5% of signatures, so. It seems like an appropriate solution if people agree.
Well, and one would guess that if it weren't possible to do it this year, that we would certainly, given that the time, that, the number of days we have
Yeah.
between now and Thursday, that's something that could be considered in a future town meeting. It wouldn't have to be this year's town meeting.
Yeah, I just want to be very careful about, conflating how we interpret the support. I mean, I try to be as sensitive as I can be about living in my own echo chamber, but I don't doubt that they're very adamant residents, but no, honestly, no pun intended, I hate them so much, but at a minimum, I'd feel most comfortable kind of seeing that representation from a petition of that intent, but for something that's so large, I'm kind of curious what would stop the association from going to the Board of Abatement to appeal relief on like an
Well, it
annual.
could be a qualifying reason, inability to pay, is a reason.
Right. But inability to pay is still there's some discretion around how that's determined, is my understanding, and
Yeah.
the times that I've served.
Board has a process.
So it's a process, but it does afford the Board of Abatement and the association to work through a very similar dialogue that we've just been having with Martin about the financial structure and circumstances of the organization as a means of temporary relief from tax burden.
Somewhat less democratic process, I would say.
If all else fails, there is a somewhat less democratic process for reviewing that as well. I'm just feeling a little uncomfortable, I think, personally as a board member with, the limited time frame.
The limited time and the dollar amount.
And the dollar amount and the opportunity to work through the dialogue around
Yeah.
community benefit,
Right.
part,
Which I think is there, it's just.
yeah.
I would love for there to be a process, a
Yeah.
longer term process to look at the options. and the property.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I can appreciate your interest in having more time. We would like to have more time as well, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, the thing is, if there's ever a time where we need the relief, it's now. It's not something, in the future, we may not need any relief. And I say that in sort of a worst case scenario where we just
Yeah.
can't continue to operate. So I don't want to come to you when we're, I'm coming to you now at a point of, where we were at a crisis point. And I would say that we were sort of a patient in critical care on a respirator, and we're now at least have the respirator out, but the patient's still in the hospital. And so, time is really important for us. This is sort of our this summer, next summer, our make or break years. So that the urgency is the need is really very quite urgent for us if we can get the support. Is it if you bring a warning, is it construed then as support of the select board? I mean, or is there any sort of duty to bring certain things to the community, so it's not perceived um, as validation on your part?
If there's the petition, then there absolutely is the duty, for sure.
Okay.
But you're asking the board to use its discretion to, grant the request.
Right.
And that does look like an endorsement by the board.
And I feel like if there was more time, there's a lot of
Yes,
potential nuances and, right, it doesn't necessarily have to be all or nothing, like it's multiple parcels.
That's what I was gonna
In the
say.
past,
In the
there's
past, it's
been
a
a percentage. So I could see a world in which the town green and, certain parcels are, certain parcels aren't. But I think it would take a broader conversation, community conversation, and more digging in to sort of find what
and I
we're.
feel like there's a willingness to do that, but it hasn't been started, so
Right.
it's not really workable for this March town meeting. Right? I mean, I want you to hear, I hope that you hear, that we value the music school. And, yeah, it's rough to be a nonprofit in Vermont like these days. And it's also rough to be a municipality.
it's rough to be a property owner.
Yeah.
And it's also rough to be somebody trying to find affordable housing
Yes,
in a
yes.
community that has these types of resources. So,
Yeah.
I think another part of that for me is like, not any organization has to make really hard decisions about their assets, and we're talking about multiple parcels and multiple usage, and any decision to make it easier for an organization like this to hold on to these parcels still blocks out a person from potentially buying a property that's coming up for a parcel that's coming up from sale, and that might be a stretch, but like we got to start having these conversations in a way that is meaningful and allows the community to actually participate in the dialogue.
So
if
that's what's being,
Well,
proposed.
When you talk about parcels and plural, to us, the campus is all integrated into one big, sort of unified use.
Yeah.
It's not like we have 100 acres just sort of sitting empty. It's got piano studios in it and things of that nature. But
Are there residential units like in the village that are part of your property
Yeah.
also?
In the village and
Yeah.
also up on Quarry Road, up in the boondocks there.
So houses.
Yeah. One thing that you mentioned, Jordan, that, we'd like to have conversations with the community at some point is when you talk about affordable housing, I don't know if you ever have a need for temporary affordable housing because we have a lot of space in the off season. But it's temporary. but I don't know if there's ever sort of that, if there's, could be some kind of thing we could help fulfill in terms of need. But we just sold.
Yeah.
this-
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had all kinds of thoughts and ideas, but part of it is wanting to be able to kind of, work through that and work through that dialogue in a way that, helps the association realize, its goals and mission, and helps the community realize, its needs protect these things, within the community, but.
We also,
I mean,
we'd rather not chop up our campus either. We just sold off a piece of property just to get some cash flow. So we'd prefer not to continue down that path of selling off parcels. But we just sold a house in December.
Yeah.
So, which is the good part of it is that this gives us some breathing room. It actually allows us to be open this summer and probably part of next, in combination with us doing everything else that we have to do. But that's the state we're in. How do you feel about if we're able to, just because we have a really kind of an urgent or critical matter, if we were to try to do the petition process, would it sound like that would be your preference if we could pursue that?
Well, the deadline is
Thursday
Thursday.
at 5 o'clock.
Thursday at 5 o'clock is the deadline, so that's a little rough to collect that many signatures.
This Thursday?
Yeah,
Correct.
but then it's a essentially sure thing. It's not, it takes the decision out of our
it
hands.
takes the select board,
And
we.
it puts
if you
it on
were-
the ballot
Yeah.
if
if you
it's
were
a
to
successful.
Provide those signatures, then we would, then it would be on the ballot for sure.
Can I ask you a question about if we were, I understand there's sort of 5 years of relief. What if we were, can you provide 1 or 2 year type of relief as part of, or doesn't it work that way?
I think it could be, if the petition was a request for a single year of relief, that seems like kind of the Goldilocks opportunity here. If there's a way to motivate folks around getting a petition in for an article requesting a single year of relief, then that gets it on as a separate floor vote for this upcoming warning that has a deadline of the fifth.
It can also be a
Or
partial,
Thursday. Yeah.
partial exemption too, if you know,
Right.
make it more palatable for voters.
Did you hear that, Martin?
Yes.
It wouldn't have to be the whole amount.
When it was previously exempt, it was partial. Was it 40? Do you remember?
I can't recall. I didn't write it in my notes.
I can't remember, but it was partial.
So
It
it
might have
had-
been 7.
It
I
had
know
an
the
exemption.
Adamant Community Club was 70 for a while, but I can't remember what this was.
I think I read somewhere that the music school was, I wanna say it was 70
So it had
for
an
a period of
exemption.
time and then it
And
sort
it
of
expired.
expired.
Yeah, back
Quite a while ago, right?
in the early 80s.
In the
80s, 90s, yeah.
Yeah, the ACC, the Adamant Community Club, we actually rent that in the summers, and so we've been supporting them as well and putting in air conditioning and essential air and things like that in years past, but that was passed, and so if we were to look for, let's say well, 1 year's the 2 most critical years are this and next. And they're sort of contiguous, with all the activity. Would that be something that you'd be willing as a select board to just put onto the warning list, a 2 year exemption? Or is that you still feel that's too much out there in terms of?
I guess
It's their prerogative if they put that to the.
He's
He's asking us to do it.
I know, but okay.
I guess I'm having a kind of a logistical struggle here, because like we don't have specific language to make a decision around. or terms to make a decision around tonight. And that I would, considering we're gonna be deciding on how to structure the warning tonight, you know, it seems kind of messy and premature to make a decision around that. And tonight is the only opportunity to make a decision around that as a select board, but the,
Put a fine point on that. You just spent like over 5 months on the budget,
yeah,
and this item is worth about over a point and a half.
Right, that's what I,
It's not small.
yeah. And albeit a narrow window, there is still a window for adding an article through petition that if it were organized and submitted to, you know, to town clerk by Thursday, then that would get it on for town meeting. So yeah.
So you say there's 5% requirement. How many residences are there in total?
I think the number is that the threshold is 70.
I think you need
The
72.
town clerk says it's a 72 signature requirement.
Okay, but when you say, how many, is it based on number of residents or households?
It's based on registered voters.
Registered voters.
Yeah, 72 people.
Okay.
And you'll just have to be careful since Adamant is so close to East Montpelier. You'll probably have a lot of East Montpelier folks who will want to sign, and you'll have to explain that it's not, their names can't be on it.
They need to be Calais voters.
I'm sorry, what was that? They need to be what?
They need to be voters of Calais, the town of
Sure.
Calais,
Right,
not East Montpelier. As you know, Adamant sits on the line.
exactly. So, Jordan, I certainly heard your reservation and understand. You know, given the sort of last minute request, so what I'm hearing is it makes sense if we try to get a petition going, so it sort of takes you out of that bit.
Yeah, and also I think, you know, refines the language. I think we're falling short of being able to kind of formulate the language tonight and what that would need to be
Right.
to approve it for adding as an article.
He proposed language in his letter.
Right, but it sounds like at a minimum, there needs to be, there wants to be some dialogue around what that is. So I'm not hearing consensus around what the terms of that language would be. And I'm also feeling sensitive to time and the
Yeah.
rest of the agenda. And so, you know, I think if there's an opportunity for Martin, maybe over the next couple of days to be in contact with the town clerk about their requirements, and if there's a select board member who can help kind of facilitate some more dialogue around that in the coming days, then I think that would be appropriate to kind of keep that moving if there is a shot at adding it to the warning. But tonight, I'm not sure that we're going to be able to entertain anything specific.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable and certainly understandable.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I mean, it's an important conversation, and happy to continue to entertain it in the coming months and find other opportunities to help guide the organization through finding relief in the short term. There are other avenues I think that are worth and possible for pursuit.
Okay, so I'll reach out to the town clerk and just sort of try to understand the process and procedures and deadlines for a petition. And of course, that's it's a very short timetable for us as well to try to get that done. But
Yeah,
let's say hypothetically, because we got a zillion other things going on, of course, at the same time. But hypothetically, we're able to get a petition formally done according to the provisions that you have for the town and so forth. Does it then automatically mean that we would be potentially on or automatically mean we could get on the list?
The warning.
It would be on, yeah, it would be a dedicated article on the warning, for a floor vote and town meeting.
And then that would allow us some time, because that's in when, March?
Mark.
Yeah,
So that would at least allow a little time, even to keep dialogue going with you folks in the select board.
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
so it sort of buys us maybe a little time.
Yeah.
Even if we find out that after we get it, if we're successful getting the petition done, in ongoing dialogue with you, if we determine it's not the right time or right place, whatever it is, we can always pull it, right? We just don't. I assume you can always pull out. I mean, if you're on the dock.
Once it's on the warning, it'll be on the warning.
You could send a representative to town meeting that says we don't, this is not what we want right now, we'd like to retract it and request that voters vote no. I don't think any voters would have trouble being told, let's just vote no. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can't.
Right. Okay. Not that I that's necessarily what we'd want to do, but I'm just in case we have some miraculous discussions and things come up before, you know, it sounds like we could sort of suspend ourselves from that meeting. And like you said, with a no vote or something, I mean,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. It's a
Yeah.
late.
Oh,
Thanks for all your volunteer
thank you,
work.
Martin, and thanks for the volunteer work from all the fellow volunteers to another. We know that this is hard work but important work.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
you know, after 83 years, it just would be so sad to see it close down. It just, that's what keeps us going. You know, I have a working board and all our meetings are run 2 to 3 hours and they're twice a month. So, and then they have work to do in between. So, but we're fine with it as long as we, you know, if we can pull this through and get us out of the woods here this year and next, that'd be terrific.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much. All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Running a little behind schedule, but thank you everyone for the dialogue. The next item on the agenda, well, actually, no, we need to consider making
So the town warning.
decision. So relative to all of tonight's conversation so far, it doesn't sound like we're proposing any changes or deviations from what is currently prepared as a draft in the shared drive, which has been reviewed by the attorney. And updated budget information has been added to align with the proposed and adopted FY 27 budget. Is that all correct?
I think so.
Is everybody willing to make a vote on that? Comfortable doing that? Can I entertain a motion to accept and authorize, I guess, Tegan to distribute the town warning? For town meeting?
Sure, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
So you all will sign it next time?
Yeah,
I'll bring a copy for signing next time.
let the Thursday deadline pass and then sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is a conversation about Lightning Ridge and right-of-way issue that we've kind of touched on a couple of times, have information on. Assuming this is regarding the right of way adjacent Lily parcel and the hay bales in the town right of way.
So I said I'd speak with the attorney about our options and basically pointed to the same statutes as when this happened 2 years ago, so we dusted off the letter that we had sent Doug 2 years ago. I put a draft of that in the folder just this evening. And
Yeah.
the attorney provided an updated version of that.
So this
Okay.
is the
The one
letter
in
that,
the email is,
The one in the email from 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, so,
okay,
so that'd be the one to
not
consider,
the
I
one in
think.
the folder.
Correct, I think they're pretty similar.
Okay,
just sent
thank
it
you.
on seven.
Yeah, and what, this worked, well 2 years ago. There was a letter coming from the select board at that time.
Okay. I have, additional information, just information for the select board. Mr. Lilly has also been in contact with the Lieutenant Governor of Vermont about this issue, and the Lieutenant Governor has been in touch with the Calais representative about this issue. And so if anyone has anything they would like to convey to the Calais representative about this issue, we can do that. The conversation that the two of them had was, this seems like a local issue. And, our representative is poised to let the Lieutenant Governor know what we are doing about it.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't say that I disagree with that. I think it is a hyper local, issue. And I don't think relative to the information that we've been, presented to date, and the representations of the status of things, that my opinion on the matter hasn't changed. This is a safety issue, and the precedent of setting items in the town right of way that could pose a safety issue to the traveling public is a problem and not acceptable. And so it's discouraging and unfortunate, but it's a clear pattern. And
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more thing. Tegan forwarded to us an email
yeah,
that didn't come to the select board directly. And that was about speeds. Right? It's a 2014 report on
2014
speed.
report
From the committee.
from a committee, and it seemed to go all the way up and down Lightning Ridge Road, measuring road width and.
Right, and they looked at speeding, and the select board has responded to the speeding issue by lowering the speed limit. And we're increasing patrols and enforcement, correct? So that addresses, in my view, the speeding issue. If this has any relevance to speeding. Which the letter and the attached report seem to indicate there was a connection.
Yeah.
yeah.
So this letter looks fine to me.
Okay, I would send it out by certified mail tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you saw the deadline
Yeah.
was just the day before the next select board meeting, so we could talk about next steps then.
Yeah, I
If
think
needed.
that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Right, well, I don't think there needs to be any action or decision, it's just authorization to send the letter, as proposed. So thank you, Kari, for working with the attorney to pull it together. We will await a answer, action, or update, at our next meeting. And with that, move on to. I guess I want to be mindful of folks who are attending on Zoom, if there is any other public comment on that or information to share about the situation.
Yeah, Jordan, this is Brent.
Yeah. Hey, Brent.
Hey, I know things have been a little rough up there. The I think there's probably one bale that he has that's kind of protecting his maple tree right there, which probably is it's definitely a town right away, but it's not in any kind of traveled portion of the road. Um, the long, the short story here is that, our family's been in the town since early 1800s. And he's the last generation that's going to be in that town. He's 82 years old. He's trying to keep traffic slow along that road there. Um, and it just keeps getting wider and wider. The house is right on the road. Um, it takes him 5 minutes to get across that road. He doesn't get around that well. And he's just trying to narrow it down so people go slow. I know they have the signs up out there that it really doesn't do anything. The He's just trying to keep it narrow right there so people slow down. He's always, he's in the road. Other parts of the town where the roads are narrow, traffic is quite a bit slower. Adamant, you talking North Calais, Maple Corners. When they narrow the road up, people slow down. He's strong-willed. He's been in town his entire life, grandparents, great grandparents, and he just thinks that he should. I don't know if the right word is respect, but have some say on what happens along his road right there in front of his house. He's been a dairy farmer his entire life. We all know how that works out. You retire, you have no money. And he's just trying to survive. So, anything we can do to try to appease him, or I don't think that bale of hay is really. I mean, I'd rather run into a bale of hay than that maple tree. He just wants to be heard, recognized, and I don't know. He may not come across that way, but that's really his feeling. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Brent.
I actually have one question.
Sure.
Did you say that really it's about one bale and not several? That he has a special interest in just the one bale in front of the maple tree?
Yeah, if you hit the other bales, you probably will be off the road.
Yeah, I mean,
They're in the right of way.
but they're in the right of way, and Brent, I hear what you're saying. I really do. I personally want to try to work through these types of things as respectfully and as mindfully, to the community members who raised them, and but in my tenure, there's been large rocks placed in the town right of way as a means of influencing maintenance behavior or being impediments or whatever you want to call it. There's been snow fiberglass snow stakes put in the town right of way immediately adjacent to the traveled path of the road, which have hit my truck mirror as I've tried to pass oncoming traffic. And it's the pattern of putting things in the town right of way by a resident without any kind of prior approval or discussion with the town about doing so. And we've certainly heard and tried to respond to concerns about speed, and we continue to fund patrolling budgets to continue to try to influence speed behavior. We've been talking about getting organized around communicating regularly to the public about speed behavior that we find unacceptable. But really, this is about things being placed in the town right of way that are really, really close to the traveled lane. One of them, yeah,
would you-
overhanging, but the rest of them are right there, right next to the town, or right next to the travel
Okay,
path of the
so,
road.
so Jordan, there is not a bale that's in the road. You're aware of that, correct?
Yeah, but the right of way extends beyond the road, Brent.
Well, I understand that. I understand that. So, I mean, logistically, he could put a fence there, correct?
With a permit.
I mean, you would need a permit to put a fence there.
I think if you look at your road committee where they went through the whole process about, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, that is a permit, that is permitted. And they also agreed back then about the width of the road at that point. They went through the whole town and measured different roads, agreed to allow certain roads to be a certain width. They had recommendations as far as up to Lightning Ridge and the Adamant Road to tee that off and not make that such a Y.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure what the width was right in front of my dad's property, but I think it was I can't remember what the width was right there. But the other bales down through there are definitely far enough off the road where if you hit them, you're going to be off the road anyways into a maple tree.
I don't agree with that particular characterization, Brent. I'm sorry. And I don't want to get into squabbling about the interpretations of our modified road standards and maintenance practices, to the best of my understanding. Certainly nobody is making an active effort to try to widen the road along that parcel because we're all intimately familiar with the feedback we get whenever it's perceived as such. But the message here is that it's unacceptable to place objects in the town right of way, which includes the roadside, which poses a risk to the traveling public. And that's kind of the extent of the conversation right now. So, with that, if there's consensus to send a letter as prepared, and we're going to go forward with that and move on with our agenda to other administrative items. First is the approval of minutes for January 5th last week, which is a special meeting to kind of go through budgetary items. Has everybody had the opportunity to review the minutes as posted to the shared drive and prepared?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any questions or comments on those?
No.
I get a motion to accept the January 5th select board minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Thank you. And board orders, grade T standard fare and the board orders that were posted to the shared drive. Hopefully everybody's had the opportunity to review those. Or any additional notes in Kari's memo about those. I get a motion to approve and sign the board orders as posted to the shared drive.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Thank you. Bill's in a signing mood. Reports, Tegan.
Today, 3 people voted in the office, 3 emails went out to voters who live abroad, and 105 ballots went in the mail for the school closure election. It's a lot. Ballots.
Wow.
I have 3 more requests in my email for tomorrow. So we're rolling on that, I think the information is posted around town and I'll keep posting on Facebook, or not Facebook, on Front Porch Forum. And then we're working, Barbara has gotten all the reports for the town clerk, so we're starting design on that. And also, prepping for a town meeting, she's done a lot of work on that, just making sure all our ducks are in a row as far as already helping with AV stuff and childcare and all that, so that's kind of what we're working on, but today was the day, if Kari hasn't already filled you in, our heat went out, our copier isn't working. And we had a representative from the Secretary of State's office coming to investigate a boundary line adjustment that is in dispute, so it's a day today.
Monday.
What time?
Monday.
Did you get your heat fixed?
The heat, so it turned out that our propane was out, I'm sure this is part of Kari's report. So that's the third time Suburban has let our propane run out in one of our town buildings, so we had it refilled by someone who was not.
Good.
Of course, Toby was there when it ran out and he was free to poke around because the rest of us were doing other things and he figured out it was clear.
Wow.
And that's a buried tank as well, so we own all the buried tanks at this point, right?
We own the tank here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we own that one over there, although we couldn't find proof of ownership. But
yeah,
Alco went ahead and filled it, or not, put 100 gallons on.
yeah.
Oh, good,
That's
good people.
very disappointing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm glad we own our own propane tanks, because that,
Well, luckily it wasn't on the weekend, 20 below night.
It had only dropped about 4 degrees and we started to notice, and so that's when Barbara and I were checking the thermostats.
Is there some type of a notification system if it were?
No, but John's researching, Bluetooth thermostats for this
Yeah.
reason.
I think I think they're thinking about some device that is not part of the thermostat, but it just
We got one.
looks at temperature and then
we
sends
got
out an
one
email
for
and
the
it's a problem.
Community center. that
Temperature gauge.
You can set it to like text or email up to 5 people when it gets below a certain temperature.
Good, yeah.
And it wasn't expensive, it was maybe $100 or something.
Yeah, okay.
Do you
And it
know
saved us,
We
I
have
forget.
one, the brand is Marcel,
Marcel?
That's different.
MAR2ELL.
does it require power though?
It's,
It does
Because it's
require.
gonna be, it's like, it's gotta go out through
it's gotta
Wi-Fi.
go out through Wi-Fi.
Which we have here, right?
Yeah. Temp Stick is the brand we have.
Sick.
Red Lily wrote a note there.
Thank you.
Yeah, Barbara had a message in the box for. Feel good, yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for the time. Thanks, Brent.
Emailed Martin Michael the information about petitioning.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, I don't know, I have much to add, I did talk with John and the crew about Apple Hills. I don't think they had to go out on Friday, I thought they were going to at one point, it just, it was raining, but, they did evaluate the turnaround and, mark some trees for removal, which Tom Frost was okay with. And then we'll work on an analysis of all the class 4s and
Great.
number of homes and
Yeah.
who might need equivalent maintenance. So I was thinking not next meeting, because we have a pretty busy agenda in 2 weeks, but 4 weeks.
sounds.
Oh, and James Daly, reached out, he said he'd like to engage the Regional Planning Commission sooner than later. Update to the local hazard mitigation plan, that $11,000 item, and, that seemed like we should just go ahead and do it, he didn't wanna wait for town meeting, we don't need to, so bring a proposal.
There was something about a save and find meeting coming up.
Yeah, so remember the, what do they call that, it's an action plan that the conservation district was working on, this summer. So they have that plan, I think it's final, I don't think they're asking for input at this point. So it's a webinar on, I believe, the
Oh, it's
23rd.
Online?
Yep,
Mhm.
it's all online. Did I send an invite? Yeah, it's 2 to 4, that's kind of a funky time.
Okay,
22nd,
okay, thanks.
I'm sure there'll be a reporting.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything for us to do other than kind of keep apprised of it. If there's a portion of a watershed for safety department calls in Calais, and they're gonna be identifying priority projects or opportunities for
Yeah.
water quality projects, and yeah.
If we knew of road projects in that watershed, we could piggyback and try to apply to them, but I'm not aware of any right now.
I'm not aware of it. Most of them I attended one of their earlier informational meetings, and most of the higher priority projects were all in, they were road related, but they were all in Woodbury, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
and with that, if there aren't any other items to discuss. Call the meeting, yep,
Sorry.
Barbara, stop the meeting from being adjourned.
yeah,
It was just the constable, position.
Oh,
yeah,
No, that you had.
Yeah.
I guess it just wasn't clear, like,
that,
where
that
do we
came,
land?
that came up, I think Barbara Butler raised it, like, what do we wanna do anything? But following the lead of Middlesex voted to eliminate the position. And so we were trying to remember, well, what was the discussion? What are the implications of not eliminating it or not filling it? So, yeah, it's, I assume it's too late to do anything for this town meeting if you were considering to eliminate it.
it's good to have the feedback that it doesn't pose a more general liability.
Yeah. Still on the town to enforce its ordinances and some, to some extent.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have anything in the budget, it's a blank.
Yes,
But I'd rather have the position remain, because sometime we might fill it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they write citations, it's, I think, a natural to go with the animal control if you can find the person that was willing to do both. Wilson Hughes used to do both, I think.
And it's still something up for a conversation, I think, with other communities.
Right.
So far, our immediate joiners, don't have one, or have somebody that's gonna have the excess capacity to fill that role for us as well, but that may change, and I agree that if as long as there isn't a liability for us to leave it unfunded, and continue to work through those dialogues to try to fill it and leave it vacant, then I think that makes sense. So thank you for seeking that further clarification.
Thank you, I just wanted to understand that.
We appreciate you.
Not if it gets to 9 o'clock, you know.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan, that was a good meeting.
Yeah.